I'm meteorologist Michelle Boss, and welcome to this special forecasting edition on KREM 2 Plus. This is a very busy holiday week, a lot of activities, a lot of travel going on, and it also looks like it's going to be one with very active weather. And so since there's a lot going on, and I want to have more than 2.5 minutes creating this special forecast exclusively for KREM 2 Plus. So let's start off with a little bit of bookkeeping first and take a look at where we've been so far this November, and then we can talk about where we may potentially be headed. So for today, Sunday, we did see a high of 48 degrees, which was nearly 10 degrees above average. A low of 41, and now our average low is 29, but we have not even been that cold this entire season. And in fact, the month of November as a whole has been about 6 degrees above average, so it's been a pretty warm November considering where we should be. And as far as snow, haven't seen any of that either. We did see a trace of rainfall today. We are expecting a little bit more rainfall tonight. That is Sunday night. Temperatures are still going to be too warm for snow. This precipitation is going to be coming ahead of a cold front, which is finally going to bring some much colder air to the region for this entire holiday week, and then especially for the upcoming weekend. But this first push of cold air that comes in tomorrow is really going to help set the stage for the potential for our first snow on a Tuesday night into Wednesday here in Spokane. So kind of taking a look at some statistics. Yeah, what cold and snow for the Spokane airport? Coldest temperature we've had so far this entire season has been 30 degrees. We dropped that cold. We're down that cold 2 days near the end of October and 1 day so far this November. I think it was back on November 8th we got down to 30 degrees, but it has not been any colder than that. We have seen colder temperatures at Phelps Field in the Spokane Valley. I think they have dipped down into the upper 20s, and Coeur d'Alene at the airport has certainly dipped down into the 20s already this season, but the Spokane airport has not. 30 is the coldest temperature. On average, we see about 6.2 inches of snow for the month of November. Our average first measurable snowfall is November 12th. We've obviously gone past that date, and here we are in the last week of November, and our snowfall to date is 0 inches. So I think we are going to see a little bit of snow before the end of the month, but it will likely be a below average for snowfall. So I want to talk about the weather impacts, because if this happened any other week, might not be that big of a deal. But since a lot of people are going to be on the road and we just haven't really seen any wintry weather, this could be impactful. So we are looking at the potential for our first snow coming in Tuesday night and early Wednesday morning. Right now, if I had to throw out a ballpark figure about what type of snow or how much snow we're talking about, maybe an inch. It's just the ground is still relatively warm. Temperatures are going to be climbing above freezing by Wednesday afternoon, and certainly for Thanksgiving. So what snow we do see is not going to be sticking around long. But again, it would be our first measurable snow, and we do anticipate it transitioning over to rain by later in the day on Wednesday. So if you have to be hitting the roads by Wednesday afternoon, and then on Thanksgiving Day, it's more going to be wet weather in the lower elevations. We kind of have this narrow window late Tuesday and early Wednesday where we could see snow here locally in the lower elevations, in the valleys. But before we get to Wednesday and Thursday, let's talk about the next couple of days for those who are getting out of town earlier and maybe have to head over the mountain passes on Monday or Tuesday. Monday, actually not a bad day to hit the road. If you got to go over the Cascades, Snoqualmie Pass, which I think is probably going to be the more popular route, looking at a little bit of light snow, but should not cause any major travel impacts. May see a little bit more snowy weather at Stevens, but again, don't think that's quite as popular as Snoqualmie. Lookout Pass, a little bit of light snow, shouldn't have any problems there. A few flakes at Sherman Pass early in the morning. I don't think it will have any major impacts. Now, as we get into Tuesday, this next storm system that will bring us our potential snow here in Spokane, it's going to hit the Cascades first, and with the colder temperatures around, we are looking at a better chance for more moderate weather impacts from snowfall, both at Snoqualmie and at Stevens Pass. But it should be dry at Lookout Pass on Tuesday, partly sunny at Sherman Pass, so no issues if you're headed eastward from Spokane rather than over the Cascades. Here in Spokane, we are looking at rain tonight. That is Sunday night. Again, this precipitation coming in ahead of some colder air that's going to be moving in for this week and even more so for the upcoming weekend. We'll see that precipitation push out early Monday morning, the cold air coming in behind it, and it's going to be a little bit breezy. Winds out of the southwest gusting 25 to 30 miles per hour, which is already kind of breezy. But then if you add the fact that even with the sunshine, we're only expecting highs in the lower 40s. It's going to be kind of a blustery day. But again, that colder air is really going to set the stage for the next storm system that comes in, which will have the cold air to work with. And then Tuesday evening, Tuesday night is our chance to see that snow before things warm up again. We're going to see a lot of ups and downs in temperatures. So cooling down Monday and Tuesday, warming back up Wednesday and Thursday, cooling back down Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if you're trying to keep track. All right, speaking of the winds, the blustery conditions on Monday, here's what we're looking at for wind gusts. Nothing extreme. It's going to be pretty windy throughout the day. I'd say gusts 25 to 30 miles per hour, mid-morning through early afternoon. 30 mile per hour maximum wind gusts, not too bad, but cold temperatures. We'll start off our Monday with temperatures in the mid 30s for most of the inland northwest, so we're not really seeing the frigid temperatures yet. But as you can see, afternoon temperatures on Monday, not really climbing up that high, only low 40s for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, low 40s for Sandpoint, only around 40 in Pullman and Moscow, and Moses Lake might be able to enjoy upper 40s, but we are going to see even colder temperatures, probably the coldest temperatures of the season Tuesday morning, and that's going to bring us down into the 20s. In fact, I'm even going 27 for Spokane, and earlier I mentioned 30 being the coldest we'd seen so far, but below freezing temperatures for pretty much all the inland northwest Tuesday morning, and really not seeing much warmth Tuesday afternoon. By then, we're going to have the cold air in place, more cloud cover coming in, so it'll be a little bit it'll be difficult for us to warm up. So we're going to be maximizing our temperatures in the 30s on Tuesday, and then seeing that next round of precipitation moving in Tuesday night. So for the rain tonight, we're still tapping into this milder air mass from the south. Once that moves out, this is the colder air behind it that's going to be coming in behind. That'll put us highs in the low 40s on Monday, and then highs only in the 30s on Tuesday. So let's see what happens here. This is Monday morning. The precipitation is pushed out, maybe a few snowflakes in North Idaho before all the dry air gets through and dries everything out, and just when the cold air makes it cold enough where we could see a little bit of snow. But for the most part, the cold comes in after the precipitation. So we're looking at some sunshine for Monday afternoon, but what's key here is, so this is Monday at 5 p.m., sun sets at 4:05. We've got clear skies. The winds have blown in some pretty cool air. We're going to see temperatures drop pretty rapidly Monday evening. By Tuesday morning, those temperatures will be down in the 20s, and then the clouds come in, so that's going to really prevent us from warming up much. So as the moisture returns to the inland northwest, this is Tuesday evening, I think it is going to be cold enough. It is pretty close to the line there, but it should be cold enough for snow in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, and that should stay snow Tuesday night through early Wednesday, when we'll see another push of milder air come in. So any additional precipitation on Wednesday, this model's not showing a whole lot, but it should transition to rain, and what snow did fall earlier would melt off as temperatures are expected to climb above freezing Wednesday afternoon. So first thing in the morning Wednesday might be a little dicey on some of those roads, or a little bit messy, but by Wednesday afternoon, just plain old wet roads out there. Here's kind of a broader perspective in case you are doing some traveling that takes you to the west side, or maybe have to make some connections to, say, Salt Lake or Denver. So this is Tuesday afternoon, and we're already going to be seeing some of those heavier snows in the Cascades. So if you do plan on driving to the west side Tuesday afternoon, be prepared for wintry weather over Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass. For the most part, Tuesday during the day should be dry across eastern Washington and North Idaho. Then, of course, once you get on the west side of the state, it is just going to be pretty soggy. So then we move forward to Tuesday evening. That's when that moisture makes it into eastern Washington and North Idaho. We've got cold enough air that, again, I think we're going to start to see that precipitation begin as snow, but then we'll see another push of warm air that changes that snow to rain. We'll even see those snow levels rising over the Cascades. So if you want to do some traveling by Thanksgiving, we may even see a changeover back to rain at Snoqualmie. And then again, still pretty soggy on the west side. And then fast forwarding to Thanksgiving, it is going to be milder with just wet weather expected in the lower elevations, and those snow levels higher even so in the mountains. But following Thanksgiving, heading into that upcoming weekend, that's when we're going to see another push of cold air from the northeast and some of the coldest air we've seen for this season, which will likely, we're talking about highs that barely make it above freezing. In fact, let's take a look at the temperature trend. Lower 40s on Monday, a little bit blustery, kind of dip down on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's when we have our chance to see some snow, but with a high of 38 on Wednesday. Even if we got an inch of snow, it's not going to stick around because it's going to be too warm. We'll warm it back up for Thanksgiving Day and the day after, and then that drier, colder air really filters in. We're looking at highs on Saturday in the mid-30s, and then we may not climb above freezing on Sunday. In fact, that first week of December is looking pretty chilly. This is an 8 to 14 day outlook, which takes us out to December 7th. And just looking at a general trend of colder than average temperatures across much of the U.S. And by this time, our average high will only be about 37, 38 degrees. So we're talking about colder than average. Well, that's pretty chilly. That's highs in the low to mid 30s. As far as precipitation, when you're looking at this really non-colored area, that just means kind of a 50-50 chance of either above average or below average precipitation. These green areas indicate a better chance, kind of leaning towards above average. But I don't think that makes a whole lot of difference because December is our wettest month of the year. We have the most snowfall in December, and we have the most precipitation overall in December. So in this period, December 1st through 7th, I think temperatures will be cold enough so that any precipitation that we see would likely be in the form of snow rather than rain. So kind of taking a look at this week as a whole, and to sum it up, we should have dry weather on Monday, though it's going to be kind of cool and breezy. Cloudy but dry weather for most of the day on Tuesday, starting off though in the 20s. But then that chance of snow moves in Tuesday evening and Tuesday night. Any additional precipitation by later in the day on Wednesday would transition back to rain. And then it looks like chance of rain for Thanksgiving Day, chance of rain the day after Thanksgiving, maybe some snow mixed in, and then turning colder for the upcoming weekend, much colder. Slight chance of snow showers on Saturday, but it looks like much of this colder air is going to be drier air as well. So we'll see those temperatures plunge for the post-Thanksgiving holiday weekend.